Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 162 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is one of the most beautiful fish that you can have in your aquarium. Mrs. Ping really likes this fish, but she says they could be mean. I've never seen one be mean. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is the Dwarf Gourami. Now, the dwarf gourami, or scientific name Trichogaster lalius, again, that's Trichogaster lalius. It is part of the family Osphronimidae, which is the family of gouramis. The gouramis are a fairly well-known group. Sorry. As you can hear, you know that if I move my system and babies do what they want. They are not on Fish Friday time. But the gouramis are a very large group of fish that are known as the labyrinth fish, part of the labyrinth fish. And we've talked about labyrinth fish before, and we'll go a little more into that later on in the video. Now, the dwarf gourami is really native to Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. I found some range maps that really have them along those Himalayan and Nepal mountain ranges. Which was kind of neat because I've always assumed that this would be much more of a lowland forest stream fish, but the map kind of had them in those mountain ranges, which is really neat. If you actually have a little more knowledge whether they're found in the uplands or the lowlands, please leave a comment down below. I'd really like to hear about that. However, they are found in slow-moving waters in streams and rivers and lakes as well. That much is pretty clear. No matter where they are, they really prefer those slow-moving waters, kind of turbid water, not necessarily turbid, but slow-moving waters, and they are heavily associated with vegetation, heavily. These fish love to be around plants. As I said, they are a labyrinth fish, and they use a labyrinth organ for air breathing. That's why they're called the labyrinth. Now, these are not like some of the other fish we talked about that have that vascularized swim bladder, which they use as like a lung. What a labyrinth organ, and because we've talked about this before, like in bettas and things like that, but I don't remember if we actually discussed what the labyrinth organ is. The labyrinth organ is an organ that allows the fish to take oxygen directly from the air instead of taking from the water, but they still use their gills. The labyrinth organ kind of grows on the back of the gills that as they breathe air, as they kind of suck through air, it just basically allows them to absorb the oxygen directly from the air into the bloodstream. This meaning that they can survive a short period of time out of the water, and that they can survive in water that doesn't necessarily have the highest dissolved oxygen. So that's a really good thing. I mean, at least if you're trying to survive. But something interesting to note that I found that I was not aware of is that labyrinth fish are not born with these functional labyrinth organs. The development of the organ is actually very gradual, and most labyrinth fish actually entirely breathe with their gills until they develop them later on as they grow older. So when they're young, they're 100% dependent on their gills. And when they get older, that's when they become much more, I don't even want to say dependent on the labyrinth organ, but where they can utilize it to survive as best as possible, which to me was really, really neat. But enough about labyrinth fish, let's talk about the dwarf gourami. Now, the dwarf gourami is a smaller fish. It's got a length of about 8.8 centimeters, which is about 3.5 inches. They are very laterally compressed, as you can see here. They have these elongated dorsal and anal fins, very rounded caudal fins. But the thing that you're probably most gonna notice are these really thread-like pelvic fins. And those pelvic fins actually do have a lot of touch sensory receptors in there. So they are using those thread-like fins to feel around in their environment, feeling where the plants are, potentially feeling where food are. It's a really unique adaptation that allows them to be in very turbid waters or in heavy runoff waters while still surviving and still being able to find their food source or just their way around the environment. As you can see, they have very striking color patterns. very striking color patterns. In the aquarium trade, which is where you're going to see a lot of these, solid colors can be found, like this one here. But in the wild, you're going to find it to be much more like this for males. And the reason why I chose this picture, it was really hard for me to find a wild male and a wild female, because almost all the pictures you see on the internet are going to be of fish from the aquarium trade. So you're going to get powder blue dwarf gouramis, red flame dwarf gouramis, electric blue dwarf gouramis. There's a world of colors out there that have been selectively bred. But if you were in the wild, this would be very similar, and this one would be very similar to what you would see in the wild as a male. The male is going to have these alternating red and blue stripes down the side and more of a diagonal pattern than these. These are a little straight up and down. I've seen them much more diagonal, whereas females are going to be much more pale, not pale, but sort of this green silver color, and much more full color. Now, the reason why I said I chose this picture is because it is apparent that males have a much more pointed dorsal fin compared to females. And this, I do believe, is actually two males. That this would be much more of like your wild phenotype, and this would be like the powder blue. But with this pointed fin back here, to me, it looks more like a male. This one, being as rounded as it is, looks female, but the color pattern would be like a wild type male. So it's really difficult, and I'm no dwarf gourami expert by any means. You want me to tell you the difference between male and female green throat darters? Hey, let's do it. By the way, that's actually kind of difficult as well. I don't know why I said that. But if you're talking about just in terms of pure color, this would be much more what you would see in the wild as a male, and this would be the wild as a female. Now, these fish do live about 7 to 8 years if taken care of, and they are fairly easy to take care of. They are very popular in the aquarium trade. You can probably buy them for about $5. You're going to have your extreme color variations that might be $30, $50. It's worth what someone will pay. But now, for the interesting fact that we're going to end the video on is actually in terms of its reproduction and the interesting aspects of its reproduction, that this fish is actually fairly unique. What will happen is this fish is a bubble nest spawner. And we've talked about bubble nests before. That's not necessarily that uncommon, but they do make a floating bubble nest. But unlike any other bubble nest builders that I've ever heard of, the males will actually make it, and they will incorporate bits of plants, twigs, sticks, debris, anything they can find, peat moss. If you're trying to breed them in the aquarium, they'll actually use a plant material and use that to sort of hold the bubble nest together and make it a lot more sturdy. Oh, baby unhappy. But they'll use those plant and twigs and sticks and everything that holds the bubble nest together, helping everything stay put. Then they start courting the female. And just like many other fish, they're out there flaring their fins, trying to look all sexy and big and all that, whatever. That's not the cool part. Essentially while he's doing that, he's drawing her or herding her towards the nest, where he continues to do it. Then the female goes and she decides, am I ready to breed or am I not? If she signals that she's ready, she will actually rub her fins on the back or the side of the male, in which she will flip on. The male will start grabbing her. Oh, just an unhappy baby. If she signals that she's ready, the male will actually sort of grab her with these thread-like pelvic fins, and then basically they'll go belly to belly, but then the female will actually flip onto her back, and she will release her eggs while he's immediately fertilizing them. By the way, I'm just assuming that they're grabbing each other, but from other mating displays from other gouramis, that seems to be what at least my experience has been. But I do know that eventually the female will flip onto her back where she will release her eggs, which are semi-buoyant, at least when they're first laid. And then they'll float up to the nest. Any eggs that miss the nest and start floating away or anything, the male will run over there, grab them and put them in the nest. And then when she's done releasing her eggs, the male will actually place a very thin layer of bubbles beneath the eggs, making sure they stay trapped in the bubble nest. And then he'll start trying to grab another female, and then another female, repeating the process over and over until he feels that he has enough eggs. And then he continues laying those small layers of bubbles underneath, and then he'll finish the bubble nest and make it thicker, and it'll be, I want to say it's something about 7 to 8 inches wide, and about 1 inch in depth is about the size of the bubble nest, which is really huge when you think about that the entire fish is only about 3.5 inches long. So that's a really big bubble nest. It's no surprise that these fish are so prevalent. They're so prevalent, in fact, that before they were popular in the aquarium trade, they were very popular as a food fish for the native people of the area. Then, once the eggs are all released and the female's gone, she's done. Male kicks her out. Male kicks her away. Things are done. Then the male actually guards the nest the complete time that the eggs are gestating until the fry are about 3 days old. Then the fry are free swimming. They swim through the bubble nest and they go away. I do want to make special note, these fish are very easy to breed in an aquarium. If you do this though, you need to remove the females as soon as they're done laying eggs, because the male will essentially beat them to death, trying to protect his babies. And then when the fry hatch, the male needs to be taken out of the aquarium because the male will start trying to eat the babies as well. Don't know why. He protects them for so much time. Then they hatch and he's like, hey, free popcorn, chicken nuggets. I don't know. I'm tired. But regardless, thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Please click the link down below if you'd like to support the channel. It is by no means expected, but very much appreciated. Regardless, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and peace.